Aurangzeb has once again found himself at the center of public debate. Recent political statements and historical revisionism have attempted to paint a benevolent picture of his rule, portraying him as a just and effective administrator rather than a religious fanatic. After the success of the recently released film Chhava on the life of Chhatrapati Sambhaji, a new wave of revisionist narratives emerged that sought to downplay his brutal policies, particularly Aurangzeb's persecution of Hindus. Some Muslim leaders like JDU MLC Khalid Anwar, RJD leader Abdul Bari Siddiqui, and AIMIM MLA Akhtarul Iman argued that Aurangzeb was a just leader and no more oppressive than any other ruler of his time. While historians like Irfan Habib in an interview with BBC described Aurangzeb's rule as tolerant simply because polytheists still lived in large numbers in India, unlike in Iran or other Islamic nations. But what fuels this admiration? Why do Indian Muslims continue to romanticize Aurangzeb's reign despite the overwhelming historical evidence of his intolerance? Short answer, precisely for that reason. Long answer, let's break down 5 key reasons why many Indian Muslims still look up to him today. Reason number 1, the defender of Islam. Aurangzeb projected himself as the champion of Islam. One of his most significant contributions was commissioning the Fatwa-e-Alamgiri, a legal document that played a major role in shaping Islamic laws in India. Unlike his predecessors, he was not interested in religious pluralism or political compromises. Instead, he actively worked towards the establishment of an Islamic state. For conservative scholars and religious groups, his unwavering commitment to Islamic governance makes him a symbol of religious adherence and purity. Reason number 2, the conqueror of Hindu kingdoms. Aurangzeb waged relentless wars against Hindu rulers, including Marathas, Rajputs, and Sikhs. Unlike Akbar, who preferred forging alliances, Aurangzeb pursued military conquest and domination. His aggressive campaigns expanded Mughal territory and solidified his image as a formidable leader. For those who view military expansion as a measure of strength, his victories against Hindu kingdoms reinforce his legacy as a powerful and determined ruler. Reason number 3, temple demolitions and mosque constructions. One of the most contentious aspects of Aurangzeb's rule was his policy of temple destruction and mosque construction. Under his reign, significant Hindu temples, including Kashi Vishwanath and Keshav Dev temples, were demolished and numerous mosques were built in their place. Some revisionist historians argue that these acts were politically motivated rather than religiously driven. But his persistent campaigns of temple demolitions point to a deliberate attempt to establish Islamic supremacy. For those who admire him, these actions are seen as a symbol of his commitment to enforcing Islamic law. Reason number 4, resistance to syncretism. Unlike his great-grandfather, Akbar, who after an initially violent period of rule, introduced Deen-e-Ilahi, a syncretic religious doctrine blending elements of various faiths, Aurangzeb rejected any form of religious fusion. He actively discouraged practices that he deemed un-Islamic, banning music and revoking patronage of arts. His rigid adherence to orthodox Islamic principles set him apart from his predecessors and appeals to those who value religious purity over cultural integration. To them, his rule represents an era of strict Islamic governance untainted by external influences. Reason number 5, the martyrdom narrative. After Aurangzeb's death, his legacy was romanticized by late Islamic scholars like Shah Waliullah and Allama Iqbal. They depicted him as the last true defender of Islamic rule in India, portraying his downfall as a tragic loss. This narrative has fueled nostalgia among certain groups, who see his reign as the final chapter of Islamic dominance in the subcontinent. His image as a steadfast ruler who resisted external influences continues to inspire those who long for revival of past glory. Aurangzeb's legacy is more than just a historical debate. It is a reflection of the deep-seated fault lines that continue to divide Indian society along religious lines. The admiration for him among Muslims and the resentment he evokes among Hindus highlight a volatile divide that, if left unchecked, could once again push the country towards another partition as history has a way of repeating itself if its lessons are ignored. It is imperative that political leaders confront this issue head-on, calling out his toxic legacy and thus drawing a clear line between whom we consider our heroes and villains.